Welcome, welcome, welcome. Happy Monday, everybody. I'm here a couple seconds early, so I just wanted to pop in and say hi. Welcome, everybody. Hey, thanks for being here today. We'll get started in just a minute. Hey, Aline, good to see you. Thanks for being here. Um, and I am sharing right now in the chat link to this week's Summary Sunday that we're going to be talking about. So glad to have you here. Welcome, everybody. Hey, it's noon and it is Monday, and that means this is Job Search Live, and I am Hannah Morgan, also known as the Career Sherpa. And what we're going to be talking about today is some of the key takeaways from this week's Summary Sunday and why I thought those articles were cool and great, and why I want to draw more attention to them for you. So I have put a link to the articles in Summary Sunday in the chat box. If you want to follow along, you're more than welcome to. But the theme for this week's Summary Sunday was the job search landscape, which is evolving, changing, especially now that we are now a fully 1 year into this COVID-19 lockdown. And when you really think back, it was supposed to be 2 weeks or maybe 3 weeks, right? Okay, we can all do this if we just lock down for 2-3 weeks, then we'll be okay. Well, none of us could have imagined that we would still be semi-locked down a year later, but here we are, and I think we've done okay, right? We've made it. For those of us that are here with me, we're here, so we're good. What we know is happening right now is that politically, there have been some new policies and bills passed in Congress that are going to have a major impact on some things that are moving forward. When we get a new president in office, there are always all kinds of changes. And one of the things that I wanted to call out that is in this week's Summary Sunday is the fact that there are going to be more government level jobs available, or government jobs available. So if you aren't looking at the government sector, civil service and government sector jobs, I think you may want to do that. And we'll talk more about that later. We also know that the majority of people like the idea of working from home, or like the flexibility of being able to work from home. And that's especially important right now when many of the schools are still locked down, at least where I am in upstate New York. The kids are going into school only 2 days a week, which makes that incredibly hard for any parent who has to go into work, near impossible. So then we also have the fact that we have all been learning a new technology. Woohoo, right? You all have been Zooming. You've been using some other new technology that has allowed you to do this job search better. More of you have probably embraced LinkedIn a little bit more fully than you have in the past. So let's remember all of the wonderful things that you've achieved throughout the course of this past year. I've been talking to a lot of career coaches, and one of the things that I love most about this past year is that it's helped people understand that you don't need to be meeting with a career coach in person, face to face, sitting across a desk. You can do that virtually, and Zoom makes that super easy. But there are other tools that coaches are using too to have those video conversations, and that carries over into telehealth and all kinds of other ways in which we are now using video to more effectively manage schedules and our time. Imagine like not having to get into a car to go drive 15, 20, 30, 45 minutes to go meet with someone, then get back in your car and drive back home. That's huge time saving. Do we miss not being able to sit across the table from somebody and have a conversation? Yes, we miss that. And when things open up and things get better, we'll be doing more of that. But for right now, video is the next best thing, and people are more willing, able to do that. So we've got some benefits to that. Hey, Colleen, good to see you this morning. George, nice to see you. Thank you all for being here. It's really a pleasure. One of the things that I want you all to become familiar with are some of the EEOC guidelines around mandatory vaccination. We know that, many of us want the vaccination, but can your current employer require you to get a vaccination? And it's not an easy answer. And so it's up to you all as future employees to understand what the regulations are and what rights you might have. And so that is one of the first articles that is mentioned in this week's Summary Sunday. So go check it out. It is on Inc. and the rules are still coming out or being interpreted. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. The other article I shared actually was more of a video and then an article by Yahoo Finance and Career Builder CEO Irina Novoselsky. I just butchered her last name, Novoselsky. Yes. And so one of the things that she says is, and this is what I want you all to keep in mind yourself, is that, well, she says, well, one of the things we're seeing on both sides, meaning both sides with the job seeker and employers, is flexibility. That is the real key, flexibility on skills. For example, we've talked about there are several industries that aren't hiring yet there are a lot of professionals in that space that have a skill set that can match for different roles. And so having companies be really open to hiring based on skill set versus experience or technology is important. So this is what I want you all to take away from this. Employers, believe it or not, are still having a hard time hiring for some of the jobs they want to hire for. If you are changing industry, it is your responsibility to connect the dots and help your future employer understand how what you used to do relates to the job that you are applying for. And if you can't answer that question, you need to talk to people who can help you figure that out. And those people usually are people who are in the job that you are pursuing. So let me use a really good example because, and this may not apply to anybody here, but it's a basic example that I think it would relate to anybody, or the example would apply to anybody. So if you used to be in food service, maybe you worked in a cafeteria that is now closed. You can't go back today and get a job in the cafeteria because that kind of dining is not really going to come back anytime quickly. So maybe it was catering, right? So you have a lot of skills as somebody who's been in food service. You know how to prep food and all that stuff. Much of that is not transferable, but the things that are you're able to follow a work process, you're able to pay attention to detail, you have a great attention to meeting customer needs and demands, you move fast, right? You've got to be moving and changing quickly, right? So those four things: customer service, responding to change quickly, following procedures, and whatever else I said. Those are the transferables. Those apply to many other jobs. And so it's your job to call out those four things without specifically relating it back to food service. And so that's exactly what they're talking about here in this Yahoo Finance Career Builder thing, is that if employers really do want to fill all of their openings, they're going to have to look a little bit broader to those transferable skills. And you can help those employers see those transferable skills by calling them out on your resume and your LinkedIn profile and your interviewing skills and your cover letter. Your job is to connect the dots. And I hope that that makes sense. It applies to anybody changing careers, right? If you're moving from one industry to another, or moving from one job to another, your job is to connect the dots. And you can do that. It just takes understanding of what the job is going to require. Um, I am regularly discovering and uncovering people who job search coaches and resume writers that specialize in different industries and fields. And so one of the people that I recently discovered was Catherine Troutman, who started the company called The Resume Place. And they're all about government jobs and government resumes and helping people understand that government job search process in the United States, which is very different than the traditional job application process. So if you're not familiar with that, I would recommend that you read up, and her website, The Resume Place, has articles on that. Yes, she is plugging her books and her courses. I'm not endorsing that. I'm just directing you to the free resources on her page. But this is what she says. The feds are a top employer in the U.S. They have jobs in all lines of work. Federal jobs are in every state. Plus, the U.S. government is growing in 2021 due to the additional mission to support the COVID-19 vaccinations and public health programs in America. And there is money for organizations and departments and groups within the government, federal jobs to grow. So if you don't understand federal jobs and you don't know the variety of federal jobs that are available, please start with the article that I shared with you, because she lays out sort of a broad spectrum of all the different types of jobs that are available in the federal government, and then what states have the most federal jobs. But what I'm telling you is that there are federal level jobs in every state. So why not explore those? That could be the opportunity that you've been looking for. Who knows? So that was my exciting news for the day, and I hope that makes sense. There was also an article written by oh shoot, now I forget the it's on Next Avenue, and I can't remember the author who wrote the article, but it'll come to me. She's interviewing Lindsay Pollock, who's just come out with a new book called Recalculating. And for those of you that are going through this job search, it's probably no surprise some of the stuff that she's talking about in recalculating, because the world of work today is very different than it was 5 years ago. And so she's helping people understand how it's different. I have not read the book yet. It's on my list of books to read. But one of the things that Lindsay says, the author of Recalculating, who's interviewed in this article, says, because one of the questions she's asked about is age discrimination or age bias. And she says, I've been amazed by the number of recruiters who tell me that it is the job candidate who draws attention to their age during the interview. I'm just sharing that with you because I hope that's not you. You should never be the one to bring up the fact that you might be older than the other candidates that they're interviewing for, or that you may have more gray hair, or whatever it is, right? That's not you. That should never be you bringing that stuff up. While the interviewer may be thinking this is an older candidate, your job is to overcome those objections by subtly playing up the fact that you are an avid bicyclist and you ride every weekend, which proves you're young and athletic and not a health risk. That you just recently completed a class in SEO, personal and SEO, to understand how search engine optimization works, which shows you're a lifelong learner and you're learning new technology. Your job is to call out things that overcome the stigma or the bias of being an older worker, because we know we can't change the personal impression of each individual we're interviewing with, right? Yes, we can say that age discrimination is wrong and there are laws against that. I get that. But there is still a bias, and that it is our job to overcome that bias if we want to get hired by that particular company. And it's doable. And there are lots of classes and courses and reading that you can take on what you can do to overcome the bias against being an older job seeker, which I know is a huge concern for people. So I just want to take a breath and say, has anyone read any of these articles that I've drawn attention to so far? Is there one article in this week's Summary Sunday that really hit you over the head and said, oh, this is perfect? Yeah, so Michael, I couldn't agree with you more that there's a biological age and there's a chronological age. And oftentimes those numbers are very far apart. Let me just tell you that I have met job seekers that are 70, 80 years old who are incredibly young. I they break all of the traditional things that we would think about when we think about the older job seeker. They're none of those things. So there is that biological age versus the chronological age, and they can be very different numbers. Your job is to not act old. Don't act like you're the smartest person in the room, because that's not going to get you hired. They want you to be capable, but they want you to be agreeable too. And I got in trouble recently for a comment that I made on LinkedIn about age discrimination, age bias. And so I am empathetic to the situation. I am not young of myself, but I realize there are things that we can do that make us either come across old or not old. And we own that, right? Just like we can control the things that we say and do that make us come across as likable or not likable, right? So we own some of this and we can change the perception. It doesn't have to be the reality. The next article, which I'm so glad Donna Tsai wrote, is 10 absolutely ingenious ways to use LinkedIn Career Explorer. If you have not gone to Career Explorer yet, I don't know what you're waiting for. I need you to go to Career Explorer. But before you go there or after you go there, go read Donna's article to understand 10 ways you can use the information that is in Career Explorer. It's absolutely so powerful. And I would love to say that LinkedIn will hold on to this forever, but I can't promise you that they will, because LinkedIn has been known to change things. They give things and then they take it away. So go check out the Career Explorer. I've talked about it before, and I knew Donna was working on this article, so I'm so glad that she finally wrote it. Thank you, Donna. Please go check it out. If you don't know what LinkedIn Career Explorer is, Tomer Cohen, the Chief Product Officer at LinkedIn, says it helps you uncover careers you could transition into and might not have considered by mapping the skills you have to thousands of job titles. Okay? So there you go. That's one of the many ways in which you can use it. I had never heard of Susanna D'Souza before, but I love her name. She has written an article, Job Hunting, First Impressions. And so the reason I'm sharing this article is because I was reading her article and nodding my head the whole time. She says, typically people start a new job search by dusting off and updating their resume. I'd like to offer a different approach. First, define goals. It's what I've been saying forever too. So I love it when other people say this. It gives you just another voice and another way of reading and hearing about how your job search process progresses. And it does not start with the resume. So thank you to Susanna D'Souza for writing that. One of the other topics that's really hot right now and is company culture. But how do you uncover company culture if you physically can't go into the office? There was a great article on the Muse written about, yes, you can still learn about company culture when interviewing remotely, and they walk you through some of the different questions to ask, what to look for. There is no guide of what a company culture is and how to define it. It's a lot of different things, and what might be important to you as far as company culture is concerned may not be as important to somebody else. So this article walks you through some of the different questions to ask and how to evaluate the culture of a company when you're interviewing remotely. So yay. Okay, so is this the last one? It is the last one. So the last article I shared was by Katrina Kibben, who works for a company she started called 3 Ears Media. 3 Ears Media is sort of a marketing company. She helps businesses write job descriptions. because businesses typically stink at writing job descriptions or job postings. We all know that. We've seen them. She tries to make them more human and real and descriptive to attract candidates, right? Which is really what a job posting should do. But one of the other things that Katrina does is she helps HR people and recruiters write their LinkedIn profiles. So their LinkedIn profiles do a better job of representing who they are and what they're all about. So because she does that, she offers that service. She's polled and surveyed a lot of people in her network to find out about what recruiters really look at when they're looking at a LinkedIn profile. And so she got all this feedback and she's incorporated that in the article, which her article's called LinkedIn Writing Service. What is that? It makes it sound like it's a promo for her LinkedIn writing service. So it is, but it's not, because of the data that she's gathered and put in there. And one of the things that you will find as you go through that article that she wrote is that no two hiring managers or recruiters have the same exact requirements or preferences on what they want to see and what they look at in a LinkedIn profile. They're all different. But what you can take away from this article is the most important parts of your LinkedIn profile based on all of this feedback from recruiters, right? So if you're wondering, gosh, which one part of my LinkedIn profile is more important, you will find that it's not just one part. There are multiple parts to your LinkedIn profile that are important to recruiters, and you will see why that is when you read that article. So those were the articles that I shared this week. Are there any questions that you all have or answers that you are looking for when it comes to your job search? Are you seeing that things are getting better? And while I'm sort of waiting for that, are you feeling like you're getting more traction on your LinkedIn profile, or the more responses to the inquiries that you send out for meetings or informational meetings, anything like that? My hunches and the data that I'm seeing from different people is that there is more activity, that people are securing new jobs. It may not be you, but there might be others. So I just want to let you know that that's what the market is indicating, that things are speeding up. So you should be noticing an uptick, not in all industries, but in the majority of industries. Yay, I'm glad to hear that you're getting more responses, Lisa. Woohoo! Good. Colleen, it's nice to know that you're evaluating the culture of an organization. And a lot of the research is pointing to the fact that culture today is more important probably than has been in a long time. So let me ask this question. I'm going to show this question. And if you want to answer, Chris, in the comments, I encourage you to do so. Chris, this is what we know. You have a budget, right? And LinkedIn Premium is, what is it, $29, $39 a month. If that doesn't fit in your budget, then don't do it. It's not worth the debt that you're going to go into. If you have money in your budget, $40 in your budget that you can realign to LinkedIn Premium, then great. Here are some of the benefits of LinkedIn Premium. You can in-mail message an unlimited number of people. Your LinkedIn profile in search results will come up earlier than people who do not pay for premium. And you've got maybe some additional search functionality. I will tell you that I do not pay LinkedIn. And I still get a tremendous amount of value from LinkedIn without paying them any money. I know a lot of people will argue that it's worth the money they pay, and that's fine. It's not in my budget, and I don't pay for it, and I still am able to do everything that I need to do with LinkedIn. So it becomes one of those questions. So if anyone has a positive or a negative experience in using and paying for or subscribing to the LinkedIn Premium service, let Chris know. Oh, and Chris, I will tell you too, there are probably lots of articles written by career professionals on whether or not it's worth it for you to upgrade to the LinkedIn Premium. I think Donna Svi has written something, and maybe even Virginia Franco. There are several people that I know who have written those articles. So it's worth doing a quick Google search to see what you come up with. Just pick a reputable source. Well, thank you for asking your question, Chris. And I'm going to call it quits for today. This was a fun time. And thank you, Heidi, for sharing your feedback with Chris here. Yeah, it can be helpful for looking at who's viewing your profile. So thank you for sharing that, Heidi. Hey, have a great week, everybody. Go try something new and different in your job search to get you some new and different results. Fingers crossed that it's a great week, and I'll see you back here next Monday, noon. Make it a good one. Thanks, you all.